Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I'm here today to bring you the worst, well, I won't say the worst, the most disappointing books of 2016. These were all books that I read in 2016. They were not all published in 2016. And they also are not all books that were very low rated or anything by me. Some of them got 3 or 4 stars, which are pretty good. But they just disappointed me in some way. Something about it disappointed me, and I will share those thoughts with you in just a minute. I did want to say that I don't own any of these books except for one. Most of them I either borrowed from the library or I gave away, or I just don't own them anymore, because why keep books that you didn't really particularly like? I kept the one book, and I will show you why at the end of this video. So I wrote down my list, and I'm just going to run right down it. The first book that disappointed me was After You by Jojo Moyes. I read Me Before You, and let me preface this by saying I read Me Before You before I even discovered BookTube. I had no idea. I just went into the book enjoying the story for what I at the time thought it was. Since then, I have read many of the comments and discussion videos about that book and about how it was problematic, and I absolutely agree with many of those points of view. I just didn't see it at the time when I was reading it. So that was a book that I really enjoyed when I read it. I think that was last year. I really enjoyed it, and I couldn't wait for the sequel, After You, to come out. And then it came out, and then I read it, and then I wished that I just never read it, because it really didn't do much for me. I mean, it was a perfectly fine story. I mean, I think I rated it 3 stars, but it just disappointed me compared to the first book. I don't know why. I don't know why I even bothered, but I did. Maybe someone else out there actually liked it. And I will say, if any of you like these books, it's okay to like them. Just for me personally, I was disappointed by them. So yeah, After You is the first one on my list. The next book on my list that disappointed me, this one might be a little controversial, was Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief. I tried to get into those books this year, and I just could not. Percy Jackson was not for me. The writing was too middle grade. I couldn't get through it. I didn't like it, but I did watch the movies, though I heard the movies weren't as good as the books, but I did watch them at least because I wanted to see kind of what the story was about. But yeah, I just couldn't get into Percy Jackson, so that was disappointing. The next disappointing book this year was An Abundance of Katherines by John Green. Looking for Alaska was one of my favorite young adult books of this year, and then I tried to read as many of his books as I could, and slowly but surely many of them just kind of went down till I got to An Abundance of Katherines. I couldn't even make it through that book. It was just not for me. I was so disappointed because I just wanted to fall in love with another John Green book as much as I fell in love with Looking for Alaska. I had read Fault in Our Stars, I think it was last year. I want to say last year, so it couldn't make this year's favorite list. And I really loved that book too, but yeah, An Abundance for Katherines just disappointed me more than any of the other books that I tried by him. Another disappointing book this year was All the Light We Cannot See by, I think his name was Andy Doerr. I'm not sure. I can't remember his name, but if that was his name, good. If not, I'm sorry. Anyway, I read that book and I rated it 3 stars, so it was not a horrible book. I just went into this book knowing that it was a World War II story, expecting to be just emotionally ravaged, basically, and I was not. I actually found myself not caring about the characters that much. I don't know. I just didn't connect very well. It was still a perfectly okay story. I still finished the whole book. I did not DNF it. I enjoyed it as far as that went, but I was just not blown away like I expected to be. And maybe that was just my fault. Maybe my expectations were way too high, but I just finished that book feeling so disappointed. The next was a series of books that I read this year, and I really wanted to love them, and I just didn't, and that was the Maze Runner series. I read all 4 of them, and I just could not I just couldn't get past the fact that I had watched the movie first. I think even though the books veered away from the movies and things were different, I just couldn't get into it, and the writing for me just was not what I was hoping it would be. So yeah, that series disappointed me quite a bit. The next book / series that disappointed me was A Court of Thorns and Roses. Again, I may be in the minority here, but I went into the book thinking it was going to be some grand masterpiece that would just blow me away, because so many people on BookTube had been talking about it, and I found out about the book, shortly after just having discovered BookTube. So it was like everywhere, because A Court of Mist and Fury had just come out, or was just about to come out or something. So I quickly ordered it from the library, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this as soon as it came in. I just sat down and I started it, and it was okay. It was nothing like I thought it was going to be, really. I don't know what I was expecting, but that was not it. I don't know, I just really didn't like it that much. I mean, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't, I didn't fall in love with it like everyone else has. I don't know. I really had no desire to read A Court of Mist and Fury. Maybe that will change down the line, but for right now, I was just disappointed by the beginning of the series. So the next series that I read this year was a unique one, because I wasn't disappointed in it as a whole. It was The Raven Cycle. I read The Raven Boys and loved the story. I read The Dream Thieves, and that was my favorite book out of the series. Then I read Blue Lily, Lily Blue, and it was okay. And then I got to The Raven King, and I thought, all right, this is gonna have to finish up well, and I was so disappointed by The Raven King. It wasn't just me. My daughter, who read the series right along with me, was just as disappointed. So I don't know. Maybe, again, I'm in the minority in this one, but I just didn't like it. But I'm really looking forward to the series coming out all about Ronan. So hopefully that one will be really fantastic, because I love The Dream Thieves, which was mostly about him. So I can't wait for that to come out. Another book that really disappointed me this year was The Girls by Emma Cline. I heard so much about that book, and I couldn't wait to get it from the library. I was on a waiting list. It took a while, and when I finally got it and read it, I was expecting this grand masterpiece of a novel all about the Manson murders, basically, and that's not really what I got. And it was just slow and uneventful for the most part, and I don't know, maybe it was just me, but I just didn't like it at all. I finished it, but only because I thought, oh, this has to get better, and it really didn't for me. So yeah, I was really disappointed. Another book that really disappointed me this year was Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell. I went into that book expecting to love it because everyone else loved it, and I read the entire thing, and the whole time I was reading it, I was like, I don't like these characters, I don't like the story, this is unrealistic, I just don't get it. Not saying that there's anything wrong with you if you love the book, because obviously there was things that maybe I just could not see, but for my own personal taste, I could not for the life of me understand what was so great about this book and why everyone loved it. It went over my head. That's definitely the case. So yeah, that book really disappointed me as well. The other last few books here that disappointed me, one was In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I just went into that book expecting a great psychological thriller, and I had called the ending way before it happened. The Loney by, I think his name is Andrew Michael Hurley. I went into that expecting like a horror novel, and what I got was definitely not a horror novel. It was very slow paced and not really creepy at all. It didn't really sum up some of the things that happened in the book very well, and I just couldn't understand why it was loved by so many people. Again, probably just me. I also did not like Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I went into it and I just did not like the writing style at all. So that was probably just a mix of me and the writing style. But I will say, though, I was so disappointed only because I had heard so many good things about it that when I got it from the library, I was so excited, and I just didn't happen for me. And then the last one that I will mention before my most disappointing of the year will be Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I just could not get into it. I don't know. Maybe it was the formatting. I mean, the formatting for other people seems to really work, and for me, I'm more of a character-driven kind of person, and I just didn't feel like as if I were really getting into these characters' heads in that format, and I think that's why it didn't work for me. And I got pretty far into the book before I decided just not to continue, and I have no desire to pick up Gemina. So yeah, so all those books, they disappointed me, but what can you do? Now, this last book is my most disappointing book of the year, and that is End of Watch by Stephen King. Yes, you heard it here, folks. Stephen King made my most disappointing list. This is the conclusion of the Mr. Mercedes or Bill Hodges trilogy. I love Mr. Mercedes. And then this year I read both Finders Keepers and End of Watch. Finders Keepers I didn't love as much as Mr. Mercedes, but I still liked it quite a bit. This book, I even rated it 4 stars. It's probably more like a 3.5, 3.75, somewhere in there now that I've reflected on it. But this one just was supposed to be this grand conclusion to the series, and it just left me so disappointed. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad I read it because I did get at least get an ending, not the ending I wanted, but I got an ending to the series. But yeah, probably it's so disappointing because it was Stephen King. I love him so much, and this one I just did not love that much, though I love the cover. Cover was probably one of the best covers I saw this year. But yeah, I don't know, it just disappointed me so much. I just wanted so much more out of it. But you win some, you lose some, I guess. And Stephen, you lost this one, but I will still continue to read all of the books that he writes, so it doesn't really matter. So those are my most disappointing books of 2016. I would love to hear your guys' opinions. Did you agree? Do you disagree? Use those comments down below and let me know what you think. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.